gentlemen. Again, my name is John Paris, and on behalf of the entire Asian American group, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon for our general election endorsement interviews. For those watching this online or at a later date, this is the race for District Court Department 15. Sitting on my right is Judge Joe Hardy Jr., who is the incumbent, and on my left is Bruce Gale, his challenger. This is a nonpartisan race as well. Both of you gentlemen have interviewed with us before, so we will dispense with our introduction of who the Asian American group is, because quite candidly the voters are more concerned about your views and your positions rather than our background and history. First question that we're asking in all of our races is this, and we'll start with Joe and go to Bruce and then alternate for the questions thereafter. Joe, why have you decided to run for this particular race at this particular time?
So primarily I am the current sitting judge, and as I tell people, being a judge is literally my dream job. So because it's my dream job, I want to keep it, and therefore I'm running to retain my seat. Why I became a judge to begin with, I externed for Judge Lloyd D. George while I was in law school. And that's where the seed was planted in me to maybe one day become a judge and give back to the community that I grew up in and has given so much to me and my family. So again, I love my job and want to keep it, and therefore I'm running to retain my seat.
Bruce.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you all very much. I am running for this seat because I think the Clark County citizens and residents and the litigants and the lawyers need an attorney who's been in the trenches and who can sit on the bench and handle all four types of calendars. There's a civil calendar, there's a criminal calendar, there's a probate and trust calendar, and there is a business court calendar. I have 29 years of experience, of legal experience. I have 7 years of accountant and CPA experience. I was admitted to the bar in 1988. I clerked for a district court judge Wendell before that. That's where I started my legal career. That's where I ended my career. Excuse me, that's where I want to end my career. Mr. Hardy was admitted in 2000, so there's a significant experience issue, I believe. But anyway, that's where I want to be. I've chosen this race.
Okay. Bruce, and obviously we'll give Joe an opportunity to answer the same question as well. Bruce, what do you see as the biggest inefficiency in the district court system? And assuming you're elected, how do you plan on addressing it?
I don't know that there really are any big inefficiencies or really big inefficiency. The district court, the 8th Judicial District Court, has come a long way since I first worked there in 1987. When I worked there were 16 district court judges. There are now 52. There was not there was no family court, separate family district court family division judges. There's now, I think, 20 of those. So I think there's been significant changes to the 8th Judicial Court local rules, giving the chief judge significant autonomy and control over what type of cases in the calendars the judges hear. There's a presiding civil judge, there's a presiding criminal judge, there's a presiding family court judge, and a lot of that authority was increased by the Supreme Court of Nevada's case in Brian Howerson versus 8th Judicial District Court. I think that was the second name of the case. It was definitely involving the former District Court Judge Howerson. So I don't know if there are really a lot of inefficiencies or big inefficiency. All I know is that if I'm lucky enough to get the votes of the voters, I will work hard, be prepared, and try to dispense justice competently, impartially, efficiently, and do my job well. Try to sit here, dispose of cases as soon as I can, and sit as a settlement judge. I've seen so many cases in my 29 years, and I've turned down a lot of cases. I I can size up a case and hopefully be efficient as a settlement judge, and also hearing any of the 4 types of calendars that the chief judge decides that I can hear.
Thank you, Bruce. Joe, biggest inefficiency, and what would you do about it?
So I would say time and expense to get to trial, or to get a what we call a case concluding determination from the court. Although great strides have been made, as Mr. Gale alluded to, since I became an attorney, more can still be done. So time and expense, time to trial. One of the things why I ran 2 years ago to become a judge was to cut down on that time that it takes from the filing of a complaint all the way to get a case through trial. It's a lengthy process. And one of the main things a judge can do in helping resolve that issue is keep on top of your particular docket. So when I took the bench almost a year and a half ago, one of the first things we did was my assistant ran a report of the 1,000+ cases that we have, and it's okay in chronological order from earliest filed case to latest, and what is the status, has anything happened in that case for a period of time, because with all due respect to attorneys, sometimes we let our cases languish, which we all get busy, but the clients and the parties aren't necessarily served when a case is just sitting there and nothing's being done. So what I did is, okay, let's look and see what are the cases that have been languishing, what can be done. Let's call the parties in, mostly calling the attorneys in for what we call simple status checks, and saying, okay, what is the status of your case? We notice that nothing's been done in your case for over a year now. What needs to be done? And half of those, they came in, and said, oh, we settled, we just haven't given you the paperwork, or, this needs to occur. And one of the things I've done as a judge, a lot of times attorneys come in and they'll say, oh, we've resolved the case, or we just haven't gotten around to doing this or that. So I say, okay, we'll come back in 2 weeks, and we'll make sure that you did what you said you were going to do. And if you do that, we'll vacate it. You don't have to come see me again. But if you don't, you'll have to come see me, and kind of, for lack of a better word, put the pressure on the attorneys to make sure the cases are moving along. So going back to time though, one of the things you can do as a judge, and I've tried to do that, is make sure cases are set for trial, make sure that the attorneys are preparing them for trial. So one of the things I did to the cases I inherited was add in the future, when cases are set for trial, add a pre-trial conference status check before they even get that far, to make sure, okay, you're gearing up for trial, your case is ready. Is there anything I can do as the judge in the case to help you move it along? So I think time and expense, the time, if you shorten the time, that necessarily lowers the expense to go to trial.
One of the issues that's come up in many of these judicial interviews is that of the biennial RJ surveys. That's really, for many voters, quote unquote civilians, that is their only look into how judges are performing on the bench. Both of you, I'm sure, have participated in those surveys when you were, prior to you being in your position, but you both certainly filled out the same surveys that I have and
Yes.
many other people have. What ideas do you have, and we'll start with Joe, what ideas do you have to try and make those surveys a little more useful, or perhaps more reflective of the kind of job that persons like yourself and other judges are actually doing, to make the public as informed as possible about their judiciary?
Yeah, I as an attorney was a actually a big fan of those surveys, primarily because they serve to educate the public. As you said, your general voting public doesn't know much, if anything, about the judges and what they're doing. I was sad to see that, to the best of my knowledge anyway, one was not being done this year. And so I think, in part, I think, reading between the lines on that, I think the expense for the RJ to do that. So I think it serves a very useful purpose, and perhaps what we can do, we as a bar, convert that to a Clark County Bar or Nevada State Bar type of survey. The primary hurdle, I think, to it would be the expense of doing it, but it is very helpful to the public. They go through a series of questions that serve to inform the public of what judges are doing, because generally nobody hears about us really unless it's some crazy thing. So I think probably if the RJ is not going to do it anymore, then converting it either to Clark County Bar or State Bar of Nevada type of program, where the attorneys who appear in front of the judges continue to fill that out.
Bruce.
I would like to see the survey done every year. I think it would help to keep the electorate more informed. It is unfortunate that apparently the Las Vegas Review-Journal has opted not to perform the survey. I don't know if the State Bar and or the Clark County Bar Association want to expend a significant amount of funds to do that. I don't know if the Las Vegas Sun is willing to expend the funds to do that, since you know, they're significantly smaller paper. So it's unfortunate, and I really don't know what the solution is. It was good that the Las Vegas Review-Journal did it for quite some time, and this particular lawyer who I won't mention her name, she used to refer to it to the Las Vegas Review-Journal's beauty contest. And this person was very sarcastic, and so, but it did inform the voters, and it takes time and money, and I don't know if it would be great if the State Bar would do it, because it's really the entire State Bar that benefits from it, north, south, and the rural counties also, but particularly in the major metropolitan areas, north and south.
And I apologize, if there's anybody that wants to jump in, I usually handle most of the judicial questions, but if anyone wants to cut me off now.
I'll ask one. Recently, you know, it's becoming increasingly important in regards to the minority treatment, and so part of this is looking at it as a political issue during the election cycle, and from a criminal justice perspective. What is your perception? It's a two-part question. What is your perception of how law enforcement treatment of minorities, and then what, if anything, do you believe that a judiciary can do to improve any perceived abnormalities in that area?
Bruce first.
Okay. I'll answer both of them quickly, and then or briefly, and then I'll give you a more detailed explanation. You see a lot of law enforcement issues, and you know, minorities being you know, killed and shot across the country. We see it in Las Vegas. I don't know if we see it that much in Las Vegas than in other parts of the country. Maybe it's not publicized as much. In regarding the law enforcement, I think there's more of an underlying problem, which I want to address. And, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily that law enforcement intentionally discriminates against minorities. And I think a lot of it's a societal problem, and it begins with an education or lack of education, not just for minorities, but for many people who are in the criminal justice system, incarcerated. I think 80% of them do not have a college education, high school education. And so I think there's an educational problem. As far as what, the second part of your question, what can the judiciary do? It's not just a judiciary function, it's also a legislative function. There needs to be more money, needs to be more money spent on diversionary programs. There needs to be more money expended on, let's not have nonviolent criminals arrested, because that takes up law enforcement resources, it takes up money and resources at the jail level. So let's have them issued a citation instead of being arrested. And that also goes to nonviolent, drug offenses where we're simple possession, not facing major trafficking or charges. So I think there needs to be more diversionary programs, and I think it's part of a legislative function. The legislature can authorize increase of a filing fee like they did in 2010, which created the 6 additional district court judges. And there can be more money either at the Clark County Commission or the local jurisdiction level. And I think, again, part of it's an educational problem, and again, there needs to be more money spent on diversionary programs and rehabilitation, because I think you can't just look at the person and the crime and what they're charged with. You have to look at the underlying background and history of the perpetrator. Why is it possible that they've done what they've done? They've molested a child. Were they molested as a child? If they're a drug abuser, or their parents, or one of their parents are drug abusers. So I think that's a part of really what the judiciary in the form of parole and probation can do, or maybe Metro at the investigation stage. Again, with a diversionary program, let's see if we can rehabilitate them and educate them so that they don't reoffend.
So I think training in terms of what can the judiciary do to address those problems, first and foremost, I think, is training. So, for example, when I was appointed, I had to undergo a 2-week course in terms of how to be a judge and what issues you can expect to face, and runs the whole gamut. 2-week course up at the National Judicial College that happens to be up in Reno, and one of the courses we had was a course that goes into what implicit biases we all have that we don't realize, and we meaning everybody, including judges. These are, depending on where you were born, how you were raised, experiences you may have had as a child up through adulthood, that all go into making up who we are, but at the same time, also create these subconscious implicit biases that we don't even realize we have. So in terms of being fair and impartial to everyone, that's easy to say, but until you realize, first of all, that look, maybe I do have these biases and I just don't realize it, and then if that is the case, which is true for everyone, what can I do as a judge to realize that and to overcome that? So a big part of that is training. So since that course that I took last year, we had another few-day course earlier this year, and that same topic was addressed, and so training is one of the first ways, I think, to be able to address that problem. As Mr. Gale pointed out, in terms of practical effect of people, I am also a big fan of different programs that the judiciary has taken the lead at instituting, because not every case is the same, not every person's the same. And so I'm glad that we are progressing as a court as a whole in terms of, you know, going back to business court that was mentioned. We have business court. I'm a business court judge. You have judges with a business background handling those types of cases. But going more to your question, we have drug court. We have mental health court, where you have a judge who is focused on those types of issues and receives training on how to deal with those particular issues.
And Joe, that actually dovetails with what will be our last question. You know, you had referenced the many specialty courts that we have in the 8th Judicial District. Assuming you're retained, or Bruce, assuming you're elected, what other programs do you think you might try and champion to try and either expand or create, try and track down funding and create a new program that you feel will address an unaddressed need?
No, that's a great question. So I think the last point of your question, though, is probably the key is funding. You know, you take the bench like I did, and your eyes are open in terms of a bunch of different issues that you may have been aware of, but not quite aware of all the details, and funding is key. So we just recently elected a new chief judge, that's Betsy Gonzalez, and she'll be heading up I forget the name of it, but the legislative committee for the judiciary, to seek those needed additional funds to continue to fund the programs we have in place, and to expand those. On the civil side, which, to be clear, my docket is all civil cases. There's no criminal cases, no probate cases in Department 15. But in terms of other specialty courts, I think the Veterans Court, the Drug Court, the Mental Health, they can all be expanded in terms of they have parameters to see who qualifies to be quote unquote put into that pathway, and the reason they may not be more expansive is simply funding. So that is far and above the key.
Okay. And Bruce, before you answer, just to make something clear, I don't have any active cases in front of Judge Hardy. I don't think I've never even seen you on the bench.
Yeah.
However, for all judicial races, be it justice court or district court, I will moderate the interviews themselves. I won't participate in the actual deliberation, because there is an off chance that Judge Hardy takes an overflow case and I end up being sent to his department during a race, just to avoid any appearance of impropriety. I just want to make that clear, and I hadn't said that earlier, but just for your edification and whomever may be watching this at a later date. So, and I'm sorry, Bruce. Same question to you. Any specialty court programs?
Well, I think there's two things that need to be addressed. One's a specialty court issue, and one's another issue. Number one, regarding the Veterans Court, the legislation, the Nevada rights statutes that deal with the Veterans Court needs to be expanded, because there are not sufficient matters for which, under the statute, the Veterans Court has jurisdiction. So I've spoken to that with people involved in the veterans area, and there's a bill draft request. I haven't seen the bill draft request that would expand some of the types of cases that the court would, district court or justice court would have jurisdiction regarding a veteran. The second item that needs attention, and I've discussed this at the judges meeting, is there needs to be a second full-time discovery commissioner. We only have one full-time discovery commissioner, Discovery Commissioner Bonnie Bula. The other part-time discovery commissioner is Commissioner Beecroft, and he administers the court annexed arbitration program, the mediation program. He also sits as a part-time discovery commissioner on some of the district court cases. And so I've discussed that with him and Judge Herndon, Judge Gonzalez, some other judges. And the problem they've had is the Clark County commissioners don't want to give them more money for that. And so there's the possibility of a bill draft request. But speaking with Judge Gonzalez, the deadline for them to submit their stuff, their bill draft request was just about to pass when I talked to them. And the last deadline to submit a bill draft request is December 1st. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but and that could be funded through the increase of a filing fee, filing fees of a minimal amount. But that I think that is something that needs to be expanded. And the third thing is we have one probate commissioner, and one of my areas of practice, contested probate and trust litigation. I have 2 Supreme Court in Nevada published decisions regarding contested probate and trust matters. His workload is he's severely burdened, and lawyers who have a probate or trust matter, they can opt to not have him hear the matter. They can have the district court judge hear the matter. The current district court judge who is hearing probate and trust matters is Gloria Sturman, but she also has a civil calendar. And I think there should be, and if I'm fortunate enough to be, if I win the election, I'd be more than happy to be one of the other judges, district court judges, to hear contested probate trust matters or even uncontested stuff. And maybe there needs to be a full-time district court judge who only hears probate trust matters.
Well, gentlemen, we're actually a little bit above our allotted time, so I appreciate you indulging us. Before you go, 2 things. First, we'd love to take a photograph or 2 with you over against our little red carpet backdrop over there before you go. Second, we are having our 13th annual, might be 12th annual, I'm not sure. 13th? 13th annual awards banquet through the Asian American Group, and that is next Saturday evening, the 24th at the TI. I'll be sending out some more information to your email addresses probably sometime tomorrow afternoon. But we are honoring 13 different individuals who have been giving back to the greater Las Vegas community over the last several years. Some as in the medical field, some doing this, establishing charities, things of that nature. I'll be up from 5:30 till 9 o'clock, again, next Saturday evening. I'll send you more information tomorrow, but we'd love to see both of you there if you are not otherwise busy.
I will be there. Yes.
Perfect.
Just for the record, I'm going to try to make it. My cousin's daughters just had a 3rd baby, and there's going to be a bris down in San Diego next week. So I don't know if I'm going to be down there for that. Maybe we'll come back for it.
Look, you're more than welcome either way. Family first, though. Respect that.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.